Well, hello people, and welcome back to part 26 of Illium, our modded Cities 1 build. I hope you're having a wonderful day. We had a live stream in the last couple of weeks adding in some new plaza space to the downtown road networks, which also included a wonderful little overpass and some nice little industrial detailing next door to the hotel. Thank you for hanging out on the live streams, and so glad you enjoy them all. But today we're heading back to the Bryce Johnson Regional Airport that we built last episode to fill the space on the opposite side of the rail yard, which will indeed feature a rail yard today, alongside a factory with orientation playing a pretty key point, as this will be a pretty significant build occupying one of the four corners of this major interchange, which I think very much like the continuous flow intersection in the downtown, will one day have four very impressive builds on each of its corners. What a happy Monday to you all, and welcome back to Illium, everyone. So for today's build, we're going to actually be glancing back to London City Airport that we looked at last week on Google Earth. There's some really good row home configurations here that sit essentially in front of the terminal, exact sort of build area we have here in Illium. And then there's also what appears to be massive factory complexes right here as well, which is essentially exactly what I want to build. In London, it looks as though it's actually a sugar factory, I suppose, if not some sort of artificial sweetener. So again, for all of you that suggested London City Airport, it's proving to be near endless inspiration, as it turns out. We're going to bring an industrial road here, off the rail yard, and then we'll configure our first factory space. So I really want the factories to integrate into the rail yard quite nicely. I'm thinking perhaps modular house factory. This is really what I want here, this open side to the rail yard, I think. So I have that there. Now I'm also using a new mod here called Tree and Prop Vehicles 2, which adds all of the official asset cars into the game. So we can essentially draw a realistic looking rail yard. So we can have our cargo train prop, we can use this on a fence fill. And let's say we want a whole bunch of cargo trains sat here. Now of course there's lots of good custom assets for train props on the workshop, but I just want the official ones so I can place them down and build these kind of rail yards. But if you've watched iLos before, you'll be pretty familiar with custom assets at this point. There's some really nice American train props on the workshop actually. But for right now, I can get away with the vanilla ones, and I'm pretty happy with that. Maybe even a few just singular locomotives down here as well that aren't pulling a load at the minute. But the case in point of it just gives us the visual of rail yard. I'm using the official assets, so I'll be happy with that. Then we can certainly morph in some sort of loading bay here as well if we want to, right? That'll be factory number one. Definitely want a couple of them here, because again we can see in London there is a lot of them. And I'm going to bring another road out from the rail yard here. Bring this up, and then the position of the second factory, I'd really want this to be quite a dominant view from here. And I wasn't actually going to use this asset, the soft paper factory. But I think because of what we've seen in London, there is absolutely this vibe here. Of quite big, almost pollutive factories perhaps. But from these interchanges and flyovers, I think that's a pretty good view, isn't it? Aviation police should be alright with that, I think. I think I might even... I don't know if we've got the room to rotate the building here. I guess we probably do, don't we? We'll do some move at height corrections once we're happy with orientation. So I actually wonder, with the position here, I'd probably like to fuse them. That glues together near perfectly there, doesn't it? I'll set that to be the same height. Yeah, I think that's the factory complex one. We could push our luck even more and add a third in here. The clothing factory doesn't appear to be a bad fuse on first impression. I think I might even push the clothing factory into that one as well. That opens up some really big spaces around the edge of the factory complex with lots of detailing. I think I'll be on board with that. Now we could even... This is an outside connection rail, isn't it? It is indeed. So we could bring in some train import into this as well. I think especially with so much production, this would probably be a good spot for that train import, wouldn't it? Now do we want the vanilla cargo terminal? Or the airports one, I wonder. The airports one is certainly a favourite. Yeah, I just don't think I can refuse that very industrial visual, especially sat across the tracks from all those fuel depots we set up last episode as well, right? That's going to make me very happy indeed. So we'll grab our train line. Feed this down. I'm going to worry about the road connections later. I really want the rail to be the priority, so to speak, here. So it'll only be connected into one side. I had to match a little bit of length out here. And then we'll plug that into the bottom one. And again, just a little height correction to make sure everyone's at the same level. I'll be happy with that. In terms of the road connection for this, it's going to have to form a level crossing. That's a terrible idea. That will massively back up, so we don't want to do that. So instead I'm going to draw this down. And then plug it up into that one. Down there. Down there. And that should be everyone happy. And all these road nodes around here as well. I'm also going to bring down to the same level as the buildings. Just so it'll make our detail a lot easier with props and services going in. Now you're probably wondering why I'm not using new DLCs at this point. Because I'm due to travel to Stockholm very soon. A lot of this is recorded quite far in advance, so at this point of the recording, or in the DLC release schedule for you guys, I'm still in the early access unreleased branch, which does not work on Illium currently. So it'll probably be a couple of weeks before you see the new DLCs in Illium, but it's just kind of released at a super awkward time, so I don't really have a choice, I'm sorry. But rest assured, we will get those DLCs in Illium once the public version is released. And I am back from Stockholm. So patience everyone, they will arrive, I assure you. Just let all that land there for expanded factory detailing. Let's give a connection into the clothes factory as well. And I think I almost can't resist this as well. Between these two factory buildings, we're going to come into a bit of network multi-tool. And use its unlock function to remove these fences. A bit of yield faithful, we can start to make some really sick looking delivery yards that really blend those two assets together, right? Essentially pre-details the space for you, doesn't it? That might be one of my favourite factory combinations we've done actually. Really nice. Oh yes, especially with trains moving through the industrial rail yard now. Look at that little angle on the front of the soft paper factory as well against the rail yard. Quite special that, isn't it? Wonderful. Lots of little space to get stuck into here for our detailing. Let's also make sure we provide a connection for soft paper factory as well. So we've got quite a few around here. Plastics are being used in all three factories, so that's absolutely essential. Paper and plain timber are produced in pretty good quantities in the city, which only really leaves us wanting. Crops can be easily imported. So it's the glass, metal, and animal products we want to worry about. Animal products might be a bit of an issue till we get a farm going. I'll see if I can configure something temporary to account for that. Let's continue the fat industrial vibes with warehouse aesthetic. And we also have the rail warehouse, don't we, which we could use. It's not really the configuration I want here. I don't want those resources being moved by rail. Now we are making something over here, aren't we? But that tile boundary blocks it off at the minute. Because we imported some oil resource here, didn't we? Which is interesting enough, producing a ton of plastic with not enough buyers for products. Well, there is about to be buyers for those products, I assure you. Let's bring out another industrial road. Now this will transfer to that row home suburb we talked about at the start at some point. But again, we'll get our fat assets in first. Just want to test the visual of a very large against the, essentially against the front of the airport here, isn't it? Let's see how we feel about this. Just pull this right up against the rail, set it to the same height as those rail nodes as well. And I'm probably going to have two of these, and if we do choose to go with them, Orientation will change, but yeah, I can't refuse that, can I? There's just something so satisfying about massive assets out the front of massive builds like airports, isn't there? Yeah, that's come together really wonderfully. I'm a huge fan of that. So we'll definitely make one of these large warehouses to store the plastic. And that was also give them an entrance in as well. Now there is going to be row homes off this road, but it's likely we'll have some further arterial connections here too. If not, probably eventually forming a roundabout on the couplet. But I will see how the traffic fares first. A little industrial connection there. And just as a brief reminder, it's likely this road is going to carry on switch backing up to probably serve the rest of the Central Park build once that exists. And maybe connecting into these roads as well, but I'm going to wait till that last tile opens, which we can't be too far away from now. Yeah, still a little over 5,500 people to go yet. Let's bring our warehouse road connections in. A little bit of overlap on the rail there, have we? Very slightly. I'll deal with that. So plastic is taken care of for all three factories. Crops are also needed, so we'll bring in the silos first. We don't need to put these in a warehouse. We'll have large grain silo. Probably, I think one will be enough. Just have that in the factories. That's because they draw a ton of traffic. Here we also want paper, and then I'm going to put petroleum in this one, which leaves the soft paper factory completely supplied with everything it needs. Now we just need plain timber, glass, and metal, so 3 more warehouses. That's quite a handy little space here. Almost looks like a possible another fusing opportunity as well. Just to have these warehouses sit directly next to each other. Right on the edge of the factory complex. Into this degree, really. Just so we can have the 3. And then we want plain timber. Not plastic. Glass. And metals. Superb. Okay, let's do a little move it height correction. Everyone to the same height as the paper factory. And then a road. Might even bring in a little one-way feeder system here. Because it's likely the farm trucks with the crops will come and use this. And then they'll loop around the other side. I'm just going to bring that road just flush with the rest of the factory as well, but not one way. Okay, so here we go. Here is, actually, where have you just come from? Let me just double check your journey. Own a large warehouse. Okay, so they're importing some of the metal from over here, but my obviously ultimate plan is that eventually metal will stockpile itself over here. And that should give us, I think, a pretty decent factory complex. I'll be happy with that there. It fills up an absolute vast amount of space, doesn't it? But what a wonderful complement to the airport space that is. Genuinely, probably one of my favourite industrial orientation sites we've done. This might even beat out Palavan's Wood Vision, which of course is such an icon, isn't it? Wonderful. Happy with the industry there. We'll see how the traffic goes on throughout the rest of the episode. Just before we move on to the row home residential town centre bit, wouldn't mind just double checking out other services. Oh shit, we need water. Is anyone dying? A few of you. A few of you are dead. We got a little death wave in the downtown, perhaps? A little bit of death? Quite a bit of death. Do we want to consider perhaps a death care asset in the downtown? I wonder if I can sneak in a cryopreservatory somewhere. Yeah, there's not a ton of death care in the downtown itself, is there? I think I'm actually going to sneak this in right in the city centre then. I'm just going to fuse it into a building. So it, yeah, just sits there and serves as death care, really. That way I don't have to integrate a crematorium into the city centre. But yes, my original point was sewage treatment, and we absolutely do need sewage treatment. So because the soft paper factory already has what looks like water treatment, I can't remember what they're called. I learned them in ILOS. learned quite a lot about sewage treatment in ILOS, and all of that knowledge has now left me. So to complement the soft paper factory, we'll also add in some sewage works as well. I think their little silo visual is absolutely more than welcome. And these do have little fences on them already, so we can just grab the same fence prop. No, really just blend that in, I think, especially with concrete touching back to the already existing foundation here. But that'll give us a bit of extra sewage capacity as well before we get around to building a dedicated sewage works. And in the meantime, we need a water tower, so I'm going to put that in there. That should be enough, maybe a second one even. In the central park, perhaps? Would that be acceptable? I'll likely blend that in with the rest of the build once it exists. But let's turn our attention now to some row homes and the rest of the road structure around here. So we'll start mapping out some roads that we need to hold our favourite row home configurations. So something we've done pretty similar in the last few episodes. We are very familiar with our favourite emerging row home patterns. So I'll repeat the tip again. Alt and V will randomly select assets from your current Find It selection. Makes placing row home districts much more varied and much easier. And even though I have set my blocks up to be 3 deep, there's no reason why you can't drop back into 2 occasionally. You just end up with a slightly shallower back garden and I guess a spare tower behind it, but it will help pull in some slightly different looking assets for you. There is a way we can set up tags in Find It, which we've done before with single family homes. But I'll cover this when we go over the Noob's Guide to Modding. We'll likely spend an episode of that series discussing the more interesting uses that you can generate with Find It, I think. All these row homes here, they are quite floral, maybe too many trees for me, but that's just a case of emerging downtowns, isn't it? So a lot of this space we can fill with this stuff, right? Just outer line row homes that look onto industrial sites, providing a local workers population as well, of course, for the factory sites here. But plenty of that to fill out here. But I would also like some services. I guess a bit of a sense of community here. So let's crack open frame. And we'll bring in a school. And we do not need elementary. Not by a long way. Why is that so much, actually? I suppose the Korean elementary schools provide 2,000 a building, don't they? So that's probably why it's so much over. But that's okay. We just don't need elementary here. But instead we'll go for a high school. And I'd like something quite big. That looks like it might fill that space quite nicely there, actually. It also gives us quite a nice view off the main road here. So I think I'm happy to crack open a few of these blocks here and start producing a little bit of a town centre theme, if you like. We do have an airport fire station, but that's a long way for them to get around if there is a fire here. So I think I'll probably justify another one. This basically sits and fits in this space, doesn't it? So, how about up on the corner here? That gives them pretty good access to the couplet. And onto this road here as well, which is actually currently colliding with the monorail. I wonder if we can bring either the monorail down or these bridge nodes up. I think it's going to be a case of both, isn't it? Just sim that down a tiny bit. Any nasty slopes or gradients that appear, we'll smooth them out. That's because this monorail runs for so long, I wouldn't mind bringing it all down to that level, actually. That might be quite nice. See how far off he is here. Yeah, just the top is being spliced now. Yeah, I think I might bring this whole monorail down then to that level, so it runs a little lower to ground. Or over the bridge, one of the two. That's also bringing in... We did just literally discuss death care, didn't we? So I think I'll blend a Korean crematorium into the school campus here. Concrete services will go very well together. Might even just budge that up and then we'll combine a couple of parks. Make this a somewhat attractive place for the Sims to live. Let's get a post office in here as well. All your classic town centre configurations. Bring in a med clinic, which hopefully we have maybe even the mountain village on here. Or the countryside one, whichever pack that is. Yeah, we'll have that. And then finally a police station as one of our last services. Again, there's one in the airport, but it's a long way for them to get around. So we can possibly bring in maybe the countryside police station next door. Again, bearing in mind we're still playing with a grander crawling height here, so the taller service buildings towards that end of the downtown. So we're still very much contributing to the skyline here at this point, with this almost medium to low density dissipation back to the highway interchange. Same story on this side of the couplet as well one day. We'll also keep breaking these blocks as well for some sports pitch. I'll have one of those, and that'll probably be it, I think. And then I wouldn't mind a hotel around here as well from the hotels DLC. And that looks like it'll fit there right on the couplet system, doesn't it? Which should be okay there, that shouldn't cause too much traffic. Could also flip this around onto its own road if I wanted to. Turn off node snapping here. Just put them straight in, so at least then they're not kind of stopping and starting on what is quite an important road there. We don't really want this to get blocked up, this segment, because it is moving a fair bit of traffic. And I think we'll go with that variation. That's probably too tall. Yeah, we'll have that one. Then we've got like a hotel just on the outskirts of the airport here. People wanting to stay. And then again, coming back to the main street here, I'd like to, I think, still feature some pretty heavy emerging downtowns patterns. Just to essentially serve as mixed use. Obviously from simulation's perspective it isn't mixed use in CS1. But we can pretend, but it also does give us sort of a really nice modern frontage to this bit of the city, I think. So once we have a few of them down, we'll grab, again I want to start coming down here again, I think. Put some 2 in, of course. This little node control junction here is going to give us a little bit of angular grief, I suppose. Just spin those around. Piece them together. These roads will now start to fit. But then as we drive past and down this street, we should be left with quite a nice visual, I think. So it looks like mixed use here, doesn't it? Services. This would be a great little transitional space here. I'm considering maybe a bridge or a tunnel leading under the couplet system here. What's our terrain differentials like? I think we probably could get it in. We'll give it a test. I'll draw that straight across. And then we'll use network anarchy to force these segments here into an elevation. And grabbing those nodes, we'll just bring them down. It's going to give us a little bit of a dip, but I don't mind that. I can blend that in. And This monorail I'm not massively precious about at the minute. I was mentioning this is going to change once that tile opens up, so I'll try not to pay any attention to that. I'm just thinking of a way for them to get the other side of the couplet if they want, because it will probably help them. I think what we will do is just to help support traffic around the couplet today, because with there being factories and an airport here now, it could get quite gnarly quite quickly. I'm going to feed this one up into that Central Park road, and then this 4-lane road temporarily can just go in there, but it likely will change that road to go deeper into that other tile. But at least the connections are established, and we'll just see what the AI really thinks of them. I think we'll also do that one there as well. Straight down. I think that's how I'll have that happen. I think we also mentioned eventual ideas of this road joining this node instead to carry on as the arterial, likely becoming a bridge over the highway to go into this district, possibly intersecting with these roads as well. And there you go. Fantastic news. Case in point, people will drive back in 2. Just give us some height differences here, but we can easily blend that in with just bringing the buildings down. No problem at all there, I don't think. But otherwise, I think we're at a good place for a detailing time-lapse now, with lots more row home patterns to fill out in orbit of the factory as that local worker population. Details to embellish, prop work to do around our big service spaces, and then some nice network design here as well. Between the couplet system and everything else. The cycling over here isn't massively wild, but I guess it is going to a highway connection, isn't it? So they won't even cycle down there anyway. Which probably nullifies the use of cycling road after this junction. So I think I'll go back down to highway. And here too. Because obviously there's no need for them to go that way. I certainly won't be sending bikes over the interchange. We'll count somewhere else for them to come in, I think. I'm also going to remove the right turn from this one. And then straight on from that one. Because we don't need it. They have this express lane off into the factory district. If they want to get in there a little bit quicker. But yeah, pretty happy with this. It's already looking such an important build next to the airport, isn't it? Especially those factories. Possibly one of the 2 most complementary builds we've ever had. Illium's factory and regional airport. Just huge lover of this big, thick building industrial visual here. Very tidy. But either way, grab yourself some snacks, and we'll be right back with detailing time-lapse. guys, let's have a little detailed review over an absolutely vast build, shall we? This has filled a huge amount of space. So over by the rails where it's meeting the highway, just have lots of overgrown, kind of dusty industrial wasteland sitting beneath the highway, by rail yards, by garbage pollution, just lots of overgrowth and shrubbery. Upgraded some sections of the bridge to prepare for a service road over here, because I imagine a lot of the garbage collection will make use of this road into these builds, of course, once they actually exist. And of course, coinciding with the monorail stop as well. So that's all very nice. Really love this. Again, the change of texture that Surface Painter can give you something very nice, isn't it? Just these dusty, sandy train lines cutting through what is a pretty industrial landscape over here now, isn't it? I dropped in a Japanese garbage collection asset, which is really helping us serve downtown garbage needs at least, because there's not a ton of it over here. There's some light vanilla asset fusing, warehouses, delivery bays around factories, little entrance here into a larger factory building. Prop work, that mod we spoke about earlier that gives you the official vehicles, also gives you trucks and trailers as well, which is such a nice aesthetic for an industrial area. You can see a train departing with some goods. Looks like some timber is actually on its way out there. Very tasty, there it goes. Wonderful. Props and containers to embellish all the yards we have around here. Just up to those train lines, again leading us back through. Very happy with that. Surfaces all around the back of the factory, so it looks like one cohesive industrial space where workers maneuver between the different parts of the processing. And then more garbage collection and zoning tucked in more awkward spaces. But we won't need garbage collection for quite a while now with 3 recycling centres and the Japanese one here. So we should be pretty future-proofed on garbage and sewage today as well. We just had that fencing drawn in just so it looks like an enclosed part of the factory. You can totally imagine some sort of gas or maybe acid being stored in bulk here at the foot of the factory, right? Whatever goes on inside there. And then popping through, we can enjoy the visual of the whole suburb sitting up here against the airport. Really similar to what we saw by London City Airport, actually. Overgrowth and detailing with the pedestrian overpass down the couplet system. And I'll probably mirror this on the other side as well, because I think it'll frame the main road through the city centre quite nicely. And this pathway that is linking people to the suburb is getting tons of use, also joining a metro station. This is the one that comes out of this station here, heading directly underground over that way. It's kind of the only area that isn't really served by transit really, because the metro and monorail go to the airport, and then the park monorail's kind of going off that way. It's likely we'll have another monorail stop here to coincide with this walking system, and once we develop this side of the road anyway. But that'll be in probably a few episodes time really. I think we'll probably finish the bulk of this area in the new tile before we start the 25 tile builds. Which isn't too far away at all. And this is where that metro emerges. We'll check some ridership. It's getting 300, which is quite tidy. Lots of people moving back and to here. I will bring some buses in, but I'll wait for the full road network to do. Or to be in over here. So we can just do those buses a little more efficiently. Back over here we have our hotels, our fire stations, and then lots and lots of emerging downtown row homes. Different sizes here. But I really love the visual of row home by airport and rail yard. A really fun bit of the city, this. You can see our metro leaving the airport as well. Never missed that opportunity. Yes, plenty of people also waiting to get on too. Fantastic news, love to see the transit getting busier. Over here, more industrial buildings, props, concrete space where you can imagine trucks turning around, deliveries taking place, such as right now. Here we go, there's our plastic and I think glass and metal being stored over here, are they? But yeah, very nice. So this is all functioning and flowing nicely with surprisingly good traffic flow. I was expecting significantly more with so much industry and factories over here. But yeah, it seems to be fine. And of course, we've got this extra relief as well at this side of the highway if we decide we need it. Coming in, there's further row home configurations with commercial, again, which emerging downtown sits very nicely in its intended position, emerging from downtown, right? There's some other fusings here. You do get some slight flickering on the roofs, but it is acceptable for this nice rounded corner we can have with these homes. And these continue. Switching back in between the sort of mixed use looking stuff. Before the school and death care campus sits with pathways and concrete around it, some hedge lining to give it a defining boundary as well. Before the pitch sits next door, we just have some other park assets with pathways linking people back behind these houses in the main street commercial, back up to that hotel. So a really fun build and a nice mix of commercial, residential and industrial to fill a slither of land between highway and airport. And again, London City. It looks like we need to do a London build at some point, doesn't it? Because apparently the area around London City Airport is incredibly inspiring for CS, it seems. Really the perfect inspiration point to take for Illium. As we'll see more people getting on and off. We'll check out the airport from last episode. Plenty of cars parking out here now. We'll check the ridership of our transit. I can't imagine anything's beating the metro. Yeah, 18 at the monorail, 1 at the bus stop, and then 218 through here. Yeah, so metro, certainly the most popular way. I wonder if that's because it's plugged into the terminal. I wonder if that's why that works like that. It could do, I suppose. But yeah, lots of fun with the airport. Not too much to check out last episode. They don't tend to change too much from just being massive slabs of concrete and grass separated around, don't they? But yeah, really happy with this whole section of the downtown here. I think it turned out wonderfully well. So a massive shout out to those of you that mentioned London City again, because it has indeed given us perfect inspiration for this particular bit of Illium. But otherwise, I'll shut up and leave it there. Let's thank you all so much for watching if you made it to this point in the video. And an enormous shout out to the YouTube members and patrons that bankroll these videos. Casino, Spartan Angel, Michael W, Phoenix MD, Blythe, Jamin, Great C, and Bryce Johnson. Thank you so much for the incredible support, guys. If you want to get involved in that, grab any of the DLC reviews today. Links down below to Patreon and Instant Gaming, and they're always the best ways to do that. As I mentioned earlier in this video, if you're wondering where the DLCs are, this is all pre-recorded before my trip to Stockholm, so before the DLC has released, and Illium does not load on the new patch because obviously mods are currently outdated for me. By the time you're seeing this on YouTube, I imagine everything would have smoothed over. So expect the DLCs to start appearing in probably 2 or 3 episodes time from this one, I imagine, by the time everything lines up. Otherwise, hang around for the cinematics. I'm sure it'll look absolutely wonderful sat here next to the airport, but I'll shut up and leave it there. I thank you all again so much for watching. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day.